Ready to dive into some seriously insightful stuff about money and happiness?
I am.
We're taking a deep dive into a conversation between Morgan Housel and Shane Parrish
Oh, yeah.
from the Knowledge Project podcast.
Mm-hmm.
It's packed with wisdom about aligning your money with a life you actually love.
It is.
So we're going to pull out the good stuff so you can put it to work right away.
Awesome.
Housel's approach is really cool because it's not just about numbers.
Yeah.
It's about the psychology of money.
Right. The why behind our money choices.
Exactly.
He says getting your mindset right is more important than getting your spreadsheet perfect.
Totally. And he says something pretty bold.
Okay.
He says not having FOMO is the most important financial skill.
Wow.
What are your thoughts on that?
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Especially nowadays with social media, shoving everyone else's highlight reel in our faces.
Yeah, it's the worst.
Like, it's so easy to get caught up in comparing ourselves and feeling like we're not enough.
I know. I've definitely been there.
Yeah.
You see someone on a fancy vacation or showing off their new car,
Yeah.
and you think, wait, should I be doing that too?
Yeah.
Even if it has nothing to do with what I actually want.
That's the danger of FOMO right there.
Totally.
It can trick us into making money decisions that don't even make sense for us.
Exactly.
Housel tells this great story about his friend Brent Bohr, who told him, "I'm perfectly happy watching you get rich, doing something I'd never want to do."
Oh, that's good.
It reminds us to define success for ourselves, not by someone else's yardstick.
Such a good point because it's so easy to get caught up in keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
But how do we actually escape that FOMO trap?
Yeah, it feels like it's baked into our culture, even our biology.
Right.
It's tough, for sure, but I think it starts with noticing those FOMO triggers,
Okay.
understanding how they mess with our thinking. Housel talks about shifting our focus from external validation to internal satisfaction.
So instead of seeking approval from others, we need to ask ourselves what truly matters to me.
Exactly what brings me joy and a sense of accomplishment.
Love it.
It's about figuring out your core values and making money decisions that line up with those.
Yes, instead of following the crowd or what social media tells you to do.
Right.
Okay, so we've tackled the FOMO monster, but now let's get practical.
Okay.
How do we actually build wealth without getting distracted by all the shiny objects?
This is where Housel throws a curveball.
Oh.
He says his approach is to aim to be average for an above-average period of time.
Average? That sounds kind of underwhelming.
Right. It doesn't exactly scream get rich quick,
Uh-huh. No.
but there's a brilliant strategy behind it.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
He's a huge fan of index funds and the power of long-term compounding.
Tell me more about this magic of compounding.
Sure.
Can even those of us who aren't math whizzes grasp this?
Absolutely. It's about letting your money work for you over time.
Okay.
Housel uses this simple example to show how powerful it is.
Okay.
What's bigger, 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8, or 8 by 8 by 8 by 8?
Definitely the multiplication.
Right. And that's the difference between linear growth and exponential growth.
Okay.
With compounding, your investment returns create more returns, and those returns create even more returns.
Whoa.
It snowballs into serious wealth over time.
So it's less about timing the market or finding that one hot stock,
Right.
and more about slow and steady growth.
Exactly. Think marathon, not sprint.
Got it.
And this goes back to FOMO. Instead of chasing the next big thing and stressing over every little up and down,
Yeah.
you're playing the long game, letting compounding do its work.
Love how all these ideas are connected.
Me too.
Okay, we've talked about ditching FOMO and embracing the power of average.
Yep.
Now let's talk about what it actually means to be wealthy.
Okay.
Housel says there's a difference between being rich and being wealthy.
There is.
What does that mean?
So being rich is simply having enough to afford your current lifestyle.
Like paying your bills.
Right, covering your expenses, maybe even having some fun money. But being wealthy is a different story. It's about true financial independence and autonomy.
So it's not about the stuff you can buy, but having control over your time and your choices?
Exactly. Wealth gives you the freedom to make decisions without worrying about money.
That's the dream, right?
It is.
That freedom and flexibility. It's
Yeah.
almost like wealth is more about what you don't spend than what you do spend. It's about having the resources that give you options and peace of mind.
Exactly. And it challenges how we usually think of wealth.
Right.
You might see someone with a fancy car and a mansion and think they're wealthy,
Yeah.
but you never know what's going on behind the scenes.
Sure.
They could be drowning in debt
Good point.
or trapped in a lifestyle they can't afford.
It's a good reminder to focus on building real independence,
Yeah.
not just the appearance of wealth.
Right.
Housel tells a story about paying off his mortgage that really shows this idea.
Oh, yeah.
He actually says it was the worst financial decision he ever made, at least on paper, but emotionally, it was the best money decision he ever made.
That's interesting. How does that work?
So he had a mortgage with a crazy low interest rate, like
Oh,
3.2% fixed for 30 years.
wow.
Financially speaking, it made more sense to invest that money
Yeah.
and potentially earn more. But for him, the feeling of owning his home outright was worth more than the numbers.
So it was about more than just the spreadsheet.
Exactly. He was prioritizing peace of mind and security,
Makes sense.
knowing his home was truly his.
Yeah, he talked about how it freed him from that debt
Yeah.
and reduced his anxiety.
Wow.
He could sleep better at night, even if it wasn't the most financially optimal choice.
It's a great example of how aligning your money decisions with your values can create a more fulfilling life,
Definitely.
even if it means going against conventional financial advice.
Right. And it touches on this idea of social debt.
Social debt.
Sometimes having wealth brings unexpected pressures.
Oh, yeah.
You might feel like you have to help family,
Mm-hmm.
make bigger donations,
Yeah.
or keep up with a certain lifestyle.
It's like this hidden cost of wealth.
It is.
You're not just managing your money, you're managing social dynamics, too.
Speaking of the tricky parts of wealth,
Yeah.
Housel tells this cautionary tale about the Vanderbilts.
Oh, yeah. The family that went from a $400 billion fortune to not much in just 3 generations.
Exactly what happened there.
It's a classic example of how wealth without the right values and mindset can be fleeting.
Mm-hmm.
The Vanderbilts were known for spending extravagantly and chasing status.
Wow.
They seemed more focused on showing off their wealth than actually enjoying it.
Yeah, like they got stuck in a loop of trying to outdo everyone else.
Right, and they lost sight of what really mattered.
Their downfall is a stark contrast to the Carnegies and Rockefellers,
Okay.
who focused on philanthropy and building lasting legacies.
And then there's that story about Anderson Cooper,
Oh, yeah.
a descendant of the Vanderbilts.
Mm-hmm.
He's super successful, but inherited none of the family fortune.
Right. He actually said that inheriting all that wealth can be a burden.
Wow.
It can stifle your drive and make it hard to create your own path.
So how should we think about passing wealth on to our kids?
Housel echoes Warren Buffett's famous advice: leave your kids enough to do anything, but not enough to do nothing.
I love that it's about finding that sweet spot.
It is.
Providing opportunities, but not creating a sense of entitlement.
Exactly. You want to encourage them to find their own meaning and purpose.
Now, Housel talks about something called the success trap.
Oh, the success trap.
He says achieving success can actually lead to its own downfall.
Really? How so?
He's observed that reaching a certain level of success can make you complacent.
Okay.
You lose that hunger and drive.
Make you get comfortable?
Exactly. And it also becomes harder to get honest feedback.
Kakam.
People might be less likely to challenge or criticize someone who's already accomplished a lot.
Makes sense. It's like that saying, it's lonely at the top.
Yeah. Success can create a bubble.
And that's why it's important to stay grounded. Seek out constructive criticism
Yeah.
and surround yourself with people who will be honest with you.
Even when it's tough to hear.
Exactly.
Housel actually shares his own experience with this.
Does he?
He talks about how he's had to find ways to stay motivated, even after achieving financial success.
It's an interesting shift, isn't it?
It is.
He's not writing out of necessity anymore.
Yeah.
It's more about the love of the craft.
Right. And wanting to share his ideas with the world.
That's a great lesson for all of us.
It is.
No matter what we're chasing in life, find that inner drive that keeps you going, even when the pressure's off.
This has been so insightful.
It has.
We've covered so much, from conquering FOMO to understanding what wealth really means and avoiding the traps of success.
But there's more to come.
Yes, there is.
We'll continue exploring Housel's wisdom next time.
Looking forward to it.
Let's shift gears a bit and talk about risk.
Okay.
Housel has a really interesting view on how we should think about risk, especially when it comes to our money.
I'm all ears.
How does he define risk?
Yeah, it feels like such a loaded word.
Right.
Especially when you're talking about money.
He sees it as anything that could derail you from hitting your financial goals.
Okay.
And what's cool is he emphasizes how personal that is.
Okay.
What might be risky for one person could be totally fine for someone else.
Right.
Depending on their goals, their situation, their timeline.
So it's not just about avoiding losses in the stock market.
Exactly. It's bigger than that.
There's more to it.
He gives this example.
Okay.
Someone who's day trading versus someone investing for retirement, way down the line.
Yeah. Okay.
For the day trader, the ups and downs of the market are a big risk. Their success depends on those short-term changes.
Right.
But for the long-term investor, those daily changes are less of a worry.
Right.
They're focused on that long-term growth.
It's like the difference between riding a roller coaster and sailing a ship across the ocean.
I like that.
They both involve movement, but the journey and the risks are totally different.
That's a perfect analogy.
Thanks.
It shows how important it is to figure out your own risk tolerance
Mm-hmm.
and then line up your investments with your goals in your timeline.
Yeah.
It's not about blindly following some general idea of risk.
Right.
It's about understanding what could really mess up your financial well-being.
This makes me think of something else Housel said
Okay.
about how a lot of arguments about money happen
Yeah,
because people with different time horizons are talking past each other.
he's totally right.
Yeah.
A 20-year-old just starting their career
Mm-hmm.
and a 60-year-old getting ready to retire,
Yeah,
they're going to have completely different views on risk and investing.
of course.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that one size doesn't fit all
Right.
and understanding where the other person is coming from.
So we need to be aware of our own time horizons and make sure we're actually having productive money conversations.
Definitely not just talking past each other.
Now, Housel also separates the skills you need to build wealth
Yeah,
from the skills you need to keep it.
he does.
Can you unpack that?
It's a smart observation.
Yeah.
He's seen that many people are great at one,
Mm-hmm.
but struggle with the other.
Yeah.
Some are amazing entrepreneurs,
Right.
awesome at taking risks and building businesses,
Mm-hmm.
but then they have a hard time managing their money once they're successful.
Yeah, I could see that.
They're so used to hustling and making big moves,
Yeah.
they haven't learned the discipline or patience to hold on to their wealth.
It's like they need a new set of skills for that next stage.
Exactly. And then you have the flip side.
Okay.
People who are super savers,
Mm.
really responsible with money,
Yeah.
but they're missing the vision or courage to take calculated risks
Okay.
and really grow their wealth.
Interesting.
They might be playing it too safe,
Right.
missing out on opportunities.
Doesn't he use Bill Gates as an example of someone who nailed both sides?
He does.
Yeah.
Bill Gates was clearly a brilliant innovator.
Oh, yeah.
Took huge risks building Microsoft,
Mm.
betting on the future of computers.
Right.
But at the same time, he was super careful and disciplined about the company's finances.
So a balance of calculated risks and good management.
Exactly. He had that entrepreneurial spirit, but also protected what he built.
A valuable lesson for sure.
It is.
We need to think about both sides.
Right.
Taking smart risks to grow our wealth,
Yep.
but also being responsible with what we've already earned. It goes back to that idea that wealth isn't just a number in your bank account.
Exactly.
It's about building a strong base for the future.
Now let's talk about the less tangible side of wealth,
Okay.
the psychology and emotions around money.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who think if they just had more money, all their problems would disappear.
Right. But it's not that simple, is it?
Probably not.
Money can help with stress and solve some issues,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't automatically equal happiness.
Right.
Housel calls money the oxygen of independence.
The oxygen of independence.
It's about how financial freedom gives you the power to spend your time doing what you love,
Right.
being with people you care about,
Yeah.
waking up feeling in control.
That sounds amazing.
It is that sense of independence is really freeing,
Yeah.
and it can make you so much happier.
So it's not about chasing money just to have more money.
Right.
It's about using it to create the life you want.
Housel points out that a new house or car might make you happy for a bit,
Yeah.
but real happiness comes from the experiences they bring.
Right.
Hosting friends, having dinner with family, doing hobbies you're passionate about.
So it's about spending on things that match your values and bring you joy.
Exactly. Being mindful of how you think about money is as important as being smart about how you manage it.
I love that.
And Housel encourages us to watch out for the lies money tells us.
The lies money tells us.
There are so many wrong ideas about money and happiness.
Yeah.
It's easy to fall for them.
Like that classic one. If I just had more money, all my problems would be solved.
That's the biggest lie.
Yeah. We've all heard that.
It's tempting to believe, but it's usually not true.
Right.
Money can help with stress and give you more options,
Mm.
but it doesn't magically fix everything.
Sometimes it might even create new problems.
He even talks about Will Smith,
Oh, yeah.
who realized being rich didn't cure his depression.
Really?
Will Smith actually felt like his wealth took away some of the hope he had
Wow.
when he was struggling.
That's so interesting.
When he was poor, he could always say, things will be better when I have more money.
Yeah.
But once he was rich, that wasn't true anymore.
Right.
He had to face the deeper reasons for his unhappiness.
It's a reminder that money isn't a magic bullet.
It's not.
It can't fix everything.
This goes back to defining success for yourself.
Right.
True success isn't just about money.
It's about living a life that feels right to you.
and doing something good for the world.
Let's go back to social debt for a second.
Okay.
Housel tells a story about a young NBA player
Yeah.
who came from poverty but felt huge pressure to share his wealth with family and his community.
That's tough.
It's awesome to be generous,
Oh, yeah.
but it's also important to set boundaries
Totally.
and manage expectations.
Otherwise, that social debt can become a burden.
Shifting back to the mind games of wealth,
Okay.
Housel says a key to happiness is managing expectations.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't mean having low expectations,
Nay.
but that our expectations should grow slower than our wealth. That makes sense.
If we always want more than we have,
Mm-hmm.
we'll always feel behind.
Even if we're doing well.
Exactly. It's like running on a treadmill.
The
You're working hard, but going nowhere.
key is to find contentment with what you have
Right.
while still working towards bigger things.
Appreciate what you have and keep striving for more.
And remember, comparison is the thief of joy.
Such a good point.
It's easy to get caught in the comparison trap.
Especially with social media.
Right. Everyone's showing their best selves.
It's easy to forget we're only seeing a tiny part of their lives.
We also need to be careful about using money to measure worth.
Yeah.
Housel says wealth doesn't equal goodness or character.
He's right. There are amazing people at all income levels.
And there are people who misuse their wealth,
Judge people by their actions and who they are.
not by how much money they have.
Let's loop back to that success trap idea.
Okay.
Housel says that hitting a certain level of success can make you complacent.
We talked about that.
You might lose that drive and hunger that got you there.
Mm-hmm.
It can also be harder to get honest feedback.
Because people don't want to rock the boat.
Right. They might not want to challenge someone who's already successful.
It's like that bubble we talked about.
Yeah, it can isolate you.
So it's super important to stay grounded,
Yes.
look for constructive criticism, and be around people who will tell you the truth.
Even if it's not what you want to hear.
He even talks about his own experience with this.
He does.
How he's had to find ways to stay motivated after becoming successful.
It's a fascinating shift.
Yeah.
He used to write because he had to.
To support his family.
Right, it was his job.
Now he has more financial security.
Yeah.
So he's had to find new reasons to write.
It's a great lesson for all of us.
It is.
Find that thing that keeps you going.
Even when you don't have to.
This has been such a cool look at the psychology of wealth and success.
It has. We've learned so much.
From managing expectations to handling social debt
Yeah.
to avoiding complacency.
And there's still more to come.
Okay, let's dig into something else Housel finds fascinating.
Okay.
The power of narratives.
Narratives.
Yeah, in shaping our money decisions.
Oh, interesting. Like what kind of narratives?
The stories we tell ourselves
Okay.
and the stories floating around in society about money success,
Yeah.
even the whole economy.
Got it.
These stories can seriously affect how we act,
Oh.
even if they're not always true.
So like these beliefs and assumptions we have about money that can guide our choices even if we don't realize it.
Exactly.
Mhm.
For instance, think of that classic rags to riches story.
Oh,
That's so popular in our culture.
Mm.
It's a strong story
Right.
that can really inspire people to work hard and go for their dreams.
Yeah, I can see that, like the American dream in action.
Right. But it can also set unrealistic expectations,
Yeah.
making people think anyone can get rich just by working hard enough.
It makes it seem way easier than it is.
It often ignores the role of luck privilege, all those systemic factors that contribute to wealth inequality.
Right.
We need to be aware of those things.
So we need to be critical of the stories we hear and make sure they match up with how things actually work.
Exactly.
Okay, so are there other ways these narratives show up in the financial world?
Housel argues that narratives can actually create market bubbles and crashes.
Really?
Think back to the dot-com bubble in the late 90s.
Okay.
The big story then was that the internet would change everything,
Yeah.
and any company with a .com in its name was guaranteed to succeed.
Oh, yeah, I remember everyone was investing in internet startups, whether they made sense or not.
Right? That's the power of a good story.
Wow.
It creates excitement and FOMO
Yeah.
that leads to overvaluation and speculation, and then a big crash when reality hits.
So those narratives really tap into our emotions.
Totally, often overriding logic and reason.
Hassel says it's important to recognize these narratives and how they can influence us.
Yeah.
It's about pausing and asking, where is this information coming from? What are the assumptions behind it?
Right.
Is it based on evidence or just hype?
Such a crucial skill.
Especially these days when we're flooded with information.
All the time.
We need to be able to sift through it all and make good decisions.
He also says, even how we understand risk is shaped by the stories we hear.
Okay.
He uses lottery tickets as an example.
Okay.
People who buy them, especially those struggling financially,
Yeah.
often believe that the lottery is their only way out of poverty.
Like they're so focused on winning big,
Yeah,
they ignore how unlikely it actually is.
exactly. It's about realizing that our perception of risk is personal
Right.
and influenced by our experiences and the stories that stick with us.
This is also interesting.
It is.
It makes you realize how much our thinking is affected by the stories around us.
It does.
Now, Housel is a great storyteller himself.
He is.
So I'm curious how he writes and makes complex money stuff so engaging.
He has this unique approach to writing.
Okay.
He calls it writing for an audience of one,
An audience of one.
himself.
So he's not trying to please everyone or follow a formula.
All right.
He's just writing in a way that feels real and interesting to him.
Exactly. And he's big on being concise, getting to the point quickly.
I like that.
He knows people have short attention spans.
Especially online.
Right. They want information that's clear and easy to digest.
There's nothing worse than having to read through tons of jargon and fluff.
He also says feedback is crucial,
Okay.
especially from online readers.
So he's not afraid to share his work and get feedback,
Right.
even if it's not always good.
He sees it as a chance to learn and get better.
That's great.
He believes that direct, often unfiltered feedback can really help him improve.
That's a good lesson for anyone,
It is.
whether you're a writer, an entrepreneur, to someone who wants to communicate better.
Be open to feedback and use it to grow.
So as we wrap up this dive into Morgan Housel's ideas, it's worth thinking about the narratives that shape our own money decisions.
Yes. What stories have we absorbed about money, wealth, success?
Are those stories helping us or holding us back?
Do they match up with our values and goals?
These are important questions for all of us.
It's about knowing what stories are driving our choices and making sure they're the right ones.
Housel says something really thought-provoking.
What's that?
He admires people who do whatever they want.
I like that.
What would that freedom look like for you?
It's a great question.
What choices could you make today to start moving in that direction?
It reminds us that financial freedom is more than just a number.
Yeah.
It's a state of mind.
It's about aligning your actions with your values.
And creating a life where you have the power to make choices that bring you joy.
That's what this whole deep dive has been about.
Finding those nuggets of wisdom,
That can help us build a richer, more fulfilling life.
both financially and personally.
Thanks for joining us on this journey.